What's up, Jimmy? How are you?
I am perfectly fine this fine evening. I've just recovered from COVID.
From
So,
the Rona?
yeah,
From the
I beat the
Rona.
Rona with minimal casualties. My only concern is my loss of smell, but I think I can speak pretty well. I'm speaking fine, right?
I, I don't think the Rona caused you loss of speech though.
Well, my throat was in pain for the past few days, but it's fine now. So, I'm ready for this.
You ready to use your throat again?
Yeah, I'm ready to pleasure the world with my throat.
With your throat, okay. But are you ready to be pleasured back? That's the real question.
I don't know about that, but I'll try my best.
I mean, it is your throat that is being used, so it is important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So, Jimmy, thank you for coming back into the show. We're gonna talk about this movie and that we got a chance to watch together, like actually like sitting next to each other. And we'll talk about the movie in a second. But I wanted to ask you again because you had thoughts on this. You ordered when we were in the theater. You ordered a crepe that was also a pizza, which is
Oh
which is
God.
which is funny because you hate the French and the Italians. So I don't know. I don't know why you did that to yourself.
Well, you see, it was an act of sacrilege, right? Because I was like, wow, pizza crepe disrespecting the French and the Italians. Sign me up. What I didn't consider was that it would be disrespecting the temple of my body as well. Because it was disgusting. You remember pizza cone?
I remember pizza cone. The pizza cone incident was a memorable one. Yeah, because you were so excited for it.
Oh God, I was so excited for pizza cone, but if we remember correctly, pizza cone every bite a new nightmare. That was
Yeah,
the tagline for the product,
it just got
and
worse every bite, right?
yeah, yeah, and it was the cheese. It was kind of like the ghost of cheese. It was flavorless, but somehow nauseating.
Yeah.
Um, and this time with Pizza Crepe, it was like the sequel. It tasted the exact same as Pizza Cone, except it wasn't crunchy and it was sickeningly sweet. So, yeah, it was even more of a nightmare.
Okay. I think it's important to bring that up because well, we're gonna talk about a movie, and it is not a part of a trilogy, but it is like a third movie, and we're gonna like we're bound to bring the previous two up. So if the witch was the pizza cone, and the lighthouse was the pizza crepe, what will be the equivalent of this movie of the Northman? We have to find a new pizza related
Man,
item that will wreck your throat, yeah,
a
and your
brand
stomach.
new pizza nightmare for the
Yeah,
Northman.
so I want to ask everyone who listens if you can give us like a recommendation of like an absolutely horrible pizza related item that shouldn't be there, so that we can have a conclusion to this ongoing pizza nightmare arc.
I have a
Which would be
candidate, surprisingly.
oh, please do.
I don't remember the brand name, but the other day I was at the fancy store.
The
Um,
fancy store.
yeah, you know where.
How fancy is this store?
Well, it's where the Republicans buy their groceries. So
Oh, that fancy store.
yeah, that fancy store. So I was in the frozen aisle, looking for foodstuffs, and they had bao, right? Baoji,
Oh,
steamed
yeah,
buns.
yeah. They made a food to reference the Pixar short film, The Cure for
Exactly.
Nightmares. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Based on the famous picture movie Baozi, the whole new craze,
yeah.
steamed dumplings, right? So
Steamed
I
dumplings was my nickname in high school.
I grabbed the box. Oh, because your buns were always hot.
exactly.
So I grabbed a box and I threw it in my car. Then I get home. I'm like, oh, I should try those dumplings. Um, I grab it and I look at it and it says pizza bao. I did not realize this when I grabbed it. I thought it was like pork or some shit. I guess it is pork, right? Because it has pepperoni in it. But I thought it was gonna be, Chinese. No, these bao are filled with mozzarella cheese and pepperoni.
That sounds gross.
Yeah, they're not great. They are not as bad as pizza cone or pizza crepe, but I think it's apt. And I guess we'll get more into that later on. But it's actually, frankly, a pretty good comparison in the trilogy. But still, audience, send us your pizza nightmares. This is not
Yes,
the
please. We would love to. Slice City.
end. Sly City.
Thank you for welcoming us into your headphones. My name is Chema,
I am Jimmy.
reviewing The Northman, and this is the rollback.
The rollback.
Rollback. All right, The Northman, conquer your fate. Prince Amleth is on the verge of becoming a man when his father is brutally murdered by his uncle, who kidnaps the boy's mother. 2 decades later, Amleth is now a Viking who's on a mission to save his mother, kill his uncle, and avenge his father. So we have the new movie by Robert Eggers, who has become a full-blown rock star after delivering us great. I think it's safe to call them modern classics with The Witch and The Lighthouse, and he's rounding up his what you refer to as the trilogy.
Yeah.
By the Northman. It's a new version of it's Macbeth, right? Yeah, it's Macbeth.
Wait, isn't it
or is it
Hamlet?
It's one of the two, and it's one of the two. So it's a modern version of Hamlet, which means that it's a modern version of like something like Lion King, but with white men, and which is what exactly it needed. And we have a big cast. We have Alexander Skarsgård of the Tarzan fame. We have Ethan Hawke from the Before trilogy. We have Anya Taylor-Joy from previous Eggers film, and we have Nicole Kidman from the AMC commercial. So we have a big cast. We have a big story. It is the first Eggers movie that's not made by A24. So, but there's a bit of A24 still in there. So you can see that's more of his style. So this is his big studio outing, big budget movie, big cast. We're gonna talk if you think if we think he stuck the landing. I want to hear what you think, because I think you were more excited than I was about this one, and but yeah, what did you think of the Northman?
The Northman. So I did go into this one pretty much blind. I don't think I had seen a trailer for it. But I knew a little bit about the subject matter. As you know, I never got over my 13-year-old biking obsession. So I still like everything Nordic, and I do have a tattoo of a rune in the back of my neck.
Yeah.
So I was pretty excited about it going in. Anya, I love Anya. I'm a huge fan of her Netflix TV show, Gatito de Dama.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, the Queen's Gambit, right?
Yeah, the one where she stares at people.
Yeah, fantastic staring. Really, yeah, like she could be in a Kubrick movie.
It's hopefully Kubrick will call her soon. There. I was trying to break. Okay. Yeah. So we like Anya in this house. We watch her grow up since The Witch. The Witch, and now she's just in this one. yeah, so you mentioned you have a rune tattoo. I always thought it was an F to pay respects.
It's both. I think it's an F. I'm not well. Okay, I'm not gonna go into it right now, but it
Yeah.
can be anything you want, baby.
Oh.
Um, so yeah, the movie I went in kind of excited, frankly, and I came out kind of puzzled. I guess I didn't really know how to feel about it after the first watch, and
Okay.
not that there have been any subsequent watches, but
Yeah.
it was an odd one. I think we both share that feeling, right?
It was a movie that definitely left me in a not an uncomfortable position, but definitely and it wasn't underwhelming either. I didn't go in with any hype. I knew I was gonna go in for some hijinks. And I understand this is like his movie where he's trying to, like, he has a lot of good graces because the A24 kids loved his first two movies. They were very very well accepted. And I think this is him reaching, trying to go, maybe not mainstream, maybe that's not the word,
Well,
but
no,
like
actually,
bigger.
yeah, I would
Yeah.
say we kind of see him as, oh, he's the bad boy of cinema, right? He gave us The Lighthouse, that was bold. The Lighthouse is a super super bold movie. Actually, not only was it shot in a square format,
Yeah.
4:3. I mean, it was also wide release in black and white. It was very theatric, just heavily.
Dark
Um,
Shadows. Yeah.
yeah, it was very gross. It was intentionally a very like gross out humor kind of movie, and it really walked the line between a comedy and a tragedy and a horror movie. It went everywhere.
Yeah.
I watched it recently, and it was even wilder than I remember. TBH. So he goes in with all this pizzazz, right? And now he's doing a movie with Universal, and I do think it does feel a lot more mainstream. And I'm not sure how much of that was him, and how much of that was the studio and producers. But it is a lot more subdued. And that's where actually I think that the comparison comes in, because Pizza Cone, Every Bite a New Nightmare, that applies to the witch as well. The witch starts out with a sentencing, right? They are banishing this family because they are not Christian enough, or the right kind of Christian, or whatever. And so we start with religious order right from the get go, putting us in an uncomfortable position of like a super oppressive Christian hegemony, right? And then from the moment we keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse until we get that,
Bitch.
yeah, Abubich. And then with the second movie, it is a lot like The Crepe. It's not that Every Bite was a new nightmare. With The Crepe, Every Bite was more or less the same, but tonally it was still very concerning, right? And very reminiscent of the past. The pizza bao, the pizza dumplings, baotza. That's the brand name, baotza. The baotza was a lot more palatable. The seasoning was good. The cheese was fine, but it was still concerning. It's still off-putting, and I think that applies to this movie perfectly. You get that hint that, well, Eggers did this, right? You would still get all those flavors. There's a lot of The Lighthouse in this movie. There's a little bit of The Witch in this movie, but it's definitely made by the same guy who made those, even though it's aimed at a far wider audience. It still has, I guess it's a little polished, you could say.
Definitely.
Yeah, rounded out by... it's very clearly rounded out by the studio in order to be more massively appealing.
I agree, and that's where I feel like you have to take in consideration, the not the popular audience, but like yeah, like the mainstream audience. Let me make you another comparison. I think I don't know if I've shared this story in this podcast before, but like when I went to see The Lighthouse, I think I told you this story, but I don't know if I've told it here. I went to see it with my sister. Now my sister had not seen the light. She hadn't seen The Witch. She's never seen. I think the closest thing that she's seen to like an A24 project was she saw Euphoria. She saw like
Right.
Florida Project, and like that. That's as far as like she's gone. So I got out of work and I wanted to see The Lighthouse. And she's always telling me like, "Oh, you always go to the movies by yourself. Like take me, like invite me. Like I want to go." And I was like, "All right." So I told her like, "Hey, I want to see this movie. It's called The Lighthouse. Do you want to come see it with me?" And she was like, "Well, who's in it?" I was like, "Robert Pattinson, Willem Dafoe." And she's like, "Oh, I like them. Like sure, I'll watch that." She had no idea what she was getting
That's
into.
great.
So we watched it, and I loved it. You know, because it. I am made to watch to like those kinds of movies. Like that's the person that I am. But she did not have it. Like she was like, "What the fuck did you bring me in to watch? Like what is this?" So she was definitely like kind of shaken by it, but she does accept. She did say it is like a super well done movie, and like I did understand the message, but like the what was that, you know? So when this movie came out, I thought, well, I won't invite her to see it. Like she's still telling me like, oh, invite me to the movies, but I was like, oh, I just want to invite to this one. She's not gonna want to see another Eggers movie. But I went to see it, and then she was like, you watched it? And I said, yeah. And she said, why didn't you invite me? I was like, you didn't like The Lighthouse. And she goes, yeah, but look at that cast. Like that's a lot of famous people. I want to see that. And I think that's what that
Yeah.
is. It's yeah, because she said the same thing about Dune. She was like, look at that cast. It's amazing. It's huge. And then she watched it and she was like, what is this?
Right.
Like, it's all famous people I like. They're not doing anything. And I was like, no, you didn't get it. But yeah, so that's I think that effect. Like people will see a lot of famous pretty faces and go, oh, this must be good. Instead of, and you know, you and me, you know, other people will be like, well, that's Eggers. Like I'm gonna go for Eggers. And they're not wrong, you know. They're not bad for seeing that. It is an appealing thing. It is a way
Yeah,
to
yeah,
attract
and it
people
works.
into watching a movie.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it totally works. But if you're gonna present that, especially made by a studio, you want the story to be more appealing. You want it to be more accessible. You don't have to just please the A24 kids. You have to please a bigger audience. I don't think this is Eggers reaching or the studio reaching for like an Oscar or something. I think he just received more money and was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna make like a bigger,
Yeah.
badder movie, in a good way. And I think he achieved it. But me being me, I kind of have grown to enjoy the smaller scale films. Like I like big movies.
Right.
I will go crazy for something like Mad Max Fury Road, but this one I think is a good balance of being big and epic while also being weird in the way that you want Eggers to be weird. Because like for example, every scene where he's like riding that horse into the universe, or like when he's talking to Bjork, or that illusion with the foe, all those scenes are like incredibly trippy and very well done, very very Eggers, but it also had that bite of like big studio
Yeah,
movie.
that's the
you
thing.
know.
There's two kinds of weird in this movie.
There are two wolves inside of you.
Yeah, there are two wolves inside of you, and one of them is farting, and the other one is doing CGI special effects. And I mean that's exactly how this movie goes, right? You have that Eggers brand of weird with all the gross out humor and all the religious undertones and all the trippy scenes like you mentioned. But then you have this secondary form of weirdness that comes in, that there's these CGI scenes that come out of nowhere pretty much, and that don't jive with the rest of the movie at all. If you cut them and you put some scenes side by side, the CGI it's from a completely different film. And it's only one particular effect, which I think if Eggers had done this movie alone, he probably would have handled those scenes a lot more differently. Like maybe we just cut to some kind of dream world or something like that, or some other kind of visual indication that we are seeing like visions, right? So, but I feel like the way it was done, was one of the concessions that made things a little more explicit and understandable for general audiences, and also just like more special effectsy, you know, because I feel like these Universal Warner movies have this kind of quota of you need to use at least these many special effects, you know, can't all be
Yeah.
practical.
Yeah. And yeah, there is like a struggle there. Like, do you like if you're given a bigger budget, you know, you might you. I think Eggers is a very creative person, and like if he gets a bigger budget, he's gonna want to make a big movie, and it's good. Like I'm like not gonna lie, like so good at doing atmosphere, and at doing and at making very creepy things. So I think if he's given a bigger budget, he's gonna want to do a bigger, louder movie with like a bigger, larger ensemble, so that you know more people go watch it. There is a struggle there, but I think I ended up enjoying the movie enough, and I like seeing it in theaters because I want to keep supporting Eggers. You know, I want him to keep doing really loud, very weird stuff. But I wouldn't be surprised if his next movie is more quiet, smaller scale, and subdued,
Yeah.
and creepier. I would not be surprised at all by that. I wanted to ask you about something because when we were leaving the movie, you had a very interesting take about religion and how it's being used in the movie. So you want to expand on that?
Right, yeah, I did mention it a little bit. You get all these Eggers, just religious undertones, and I really like the way they were portrayed in this film. There is this fantastic joke that really really got to me when they are talking about maybe the Christians did it. Their God is a corpse nailed to a tree. And that really hit me, right? And then there's also this kind of contention between the protagonist and his uncle, where they worship different gods in the same pantheon. And it comes up multiple times, like, you know, my God is better than yours, or my God has blessed me this way and yours hasn't. And that felt really magical to me and really human to me, because it's reflective of this era of the world where faiths were a little more abstract and real. Like for these people, these things felt like real parts of their world, real influences in their world. And you know, I'm a very religious person, but I'm also a scientist. So I mean, I do feel like the world is way more mundane uh, than most folks, I guess. But no, in this film, it was very present, and it was a matter of not like my God exists and yours doesn't, or my faith is true then your faith is false. It was a matter of our gods are different and we worship different things, but they can coexist, right? Because Anya comes from a different region. I think she's Slavic, and her people worship nature, right? So there's a part where Amleth tells her, "Hey, can you pray to your gods for this one thing in particular? It seems like they'd be more useful for that than mine." And that's to me incredible, right? He's not saying like, "Oh, I mean, you're crazy, right? You worship this thing that I don't care about." He's like, "Hey, use your religion to do this, and I'll use my religion to do this other thing," you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
there's also this ritual they are doing, where they burp and they chase around, they pretend to be wolves, and that was also a really magical scene in my that was probably the most stagger scene in the entire movie, if you agree with me.
I think I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, and that scene was very significant, I think, because you know, you see it and you're like, oh, that's gross, why are they burping, why is this weird? But that's just how things were back then, you know. And it's a way to bridge the idea between what is human, and physiological, and what is divine.
And then right in the middle of all that, you know, there's a fart joke,
Yeah.
which I think Eggers is becoming a big fan of using, you know, since the previous movie. Because like and this is maybe like the editor in me talking, but that fart sound when he's a kid and he's doing the ritual, that's a stock fart sound.
Oh, really?
Like I know it. Yeah, if you go to YouTube and just type like fart sound, it's like the first thing that comes up. And I don't know if Eggers has just gotten so used to working with very little budget, or he's just like he just did that for the lols.
Yeah, that sounds like a
like
joke just for you.
sounds like a joke just for him, like just for Eggers.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna make this hyper super produced movie and I'm gonna use like this fart stock sound. Like he couldn't have like one person on set like hey you, let me know if you feel like farting because I need to record that shit, like something. So I'm gonna decide to believe that that he did that for the lulz. He's just this. I imagine him as like this super, like dark, like walking through like London fog in the 1800s, like holding a candlelight, and but at the same time he can just be like, man, farts are funny, bro.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
completely true, and I completely agree. I think it was 100% done on purpose. Maybe for a
Yeah.
few people to notice it, but definitely mostly for him to have a laugh at.
Yeah. Also, he's a strange person because if you see him, you think he's like this British guy, but he's like from New Hampshire. So I don't know. Very very strange.
I think
Um.
people from New Hampshire are just like that.
Okay. So it's not. There's no special effects. Like they just like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, they made him.
All right. Good to know. Uh. Yeah. I mean, do you consider this movie like to be like when it comes to like the action and the drama, like it is a big movie, but I don't know, like I saw some people reacting to it like I don't know, like, oh, I watched this movie, now I want to hit the gym, like, oh, this movie pumped me the fuck up, and like
Um,
it didn't for me.
no.
Like I was there for it because I like the things that are most memorable to me are like it was not the action, like there is a lot of like fighting and gore and blood in this movie, but it was mostly a an interesting experience because I went more for the like I'm gonna have Willem Dafoe slapping in his own dick
Yeah.
as a bigger like memory than I have for like any other scene, because most of the violent fight scenes were included in the trailer. Like the big scene in the trailer was that part where someone throws like a lance and he just picks it up and like throws it back,
Really?
which is a cool scene. But I remember that the whole trailer was centered around that one scene, and it's cool, but it happens like the first 10 minutes.
Well, the action scenes were
So
fantastic, and we did say
yeah,
this. You brought this up during the movie. This is the Dark Souls of movies, and that was true. Like all the fight scenes, there was a lot of rolling, there was a lot of parrying, dodging. It was very Dark Souls.
yeah,
So the action scenes were great, but they are not what spoke to me about this movie. Like they were there because they were flashy and they were really well executed. But I feel like they. I mean, the last fight, the volcano fight, I guess that was very impactful because it was the resolution of the entire movie, right? But the rest of it, I feel like the movie lived in the quieter moments, in the moments between Amleth and his Slavic wife, and the moments between Amleth and his father, and his reflections with his mother. The scenes with the mom were fantastic. If we want to talk about those a little bit, you said you saw it coming, right?
no, you saw it coming. I did not. The twist. So this is let's just say it's Hamlet. So this is Hamlet, but hit my mic. So this is Hamlet, but it has a twist. So it's supposed to. So the story, like, it's supposed to end with like him avenging, his family and coming back to like rule the kingdom. But we have this little twist of the mom being like, I never loved your father. Like, I'm happier now. I wish you were dead. Like, I'm glad. I'm glad that this happened. I asked him for it to happen, and we have this little twist where like the mom is like, but if you wanna take him out, like I like sure, like go ahead, like as long as I stay queen, like that's fine. I did not see that coming, and I think that is the thing that I like the most about the movie. That Eggers could have just stuck to a, oh, I'm just gonna retell this story with like Vikings, but no, he decided to add like that little twist. I did not see it coming, but I thought that was like the part of the movie that fucked, like that part. I think will be talked about. I think that's the part that's gonna leave people talking, because to me it was unexpected. And I told you this coming out, and I think you mentioned that you saw it coming like from the start.
No, no, no.
Now I want to rewatch the movie.
What I felt from the start was that she was into the uncle. Like I didn't think that she was being held hostage or anything. I thought she was happy with the arrangement, and I thought she might have had something to do with it. But I was not expecting her to be like, I mean, you can have me as your queen. Like that shocked me too.
Yeah. That didn't shock me. I felt like it was the natural progression after what she revealed.
Yeah, so that was what I meant, because you did say it was more like, oh, it made sense. And actually people have said this about the Lion King forever, right? Because in A Lion's Pride, the alpha mates with all the females, right? So people joke about this, like, oh, when Simba becomes the king of the pride, right, he's not only banging his cousin Nala, but also his mom. And I don't know if that was sort of inspiration for this, because it's something that is very talked about, but it is a weird parallel between this like logical step of what lions actually do in nature and this particular retelling of Hamlet, or our protagonist Amleth, right? We noticed that when we got out of the theater.
Like, oh, Amleth. Yeah, we had that little moment. Yeah, no, I mean, it made sense with the Lion King, because like they're animals, and like I don't care what they do. Like as long as they keep chilling, and like these people, like if they existed in a real life canon, like this happened like, a couple of years ago, so like it doesn't affect me either. So like what they did, I guess, stays between them, I guess. But yeah, I think the twist is the thing that I ended up liking the most about the movie. I do see people reacting to this the way that I reacted to the Green Knight last year. Like, to me, the Green Knight fucked. Like, to me, that was a great movie,
right.
and the visuals, kept me going. I think you were more critical on it than I was, but I enjoyed how fucking bizarre and weird and pretentious it got. Like the more the seconds passed.
Well, my complaint was that it was not pretentious enough.
Okay. See, that's my complaint about this one. I feel like this one is not weird enough. I feel like it needed to be more weird.
Yeah. And
but it's a studio movie, so it can't. It weirdly can't.
Yeah, there was a particular scene that bothered me in that respect. We get this right in the middle of the movie, right, where someone gives him a prophecy. They tell him, you need to get this cursed sword. A corpse has it. He goes to get it. The corpse comes back to life, and they fight. And the sword is cursed. The sword is magic. You can only draw it at night or in a lake of fire. Those are the two conditions it has, right? So the sword is magic, but then after that fight scene, we get this shot that implies that it was not real, that it happened either in his imagination or in some sort of spiritual realm or something. What it actually implies hard and coldly is that it didn't happen. The fight did not happen. So now I'm left like, okay, why can we have some magic things but not others? Why did we need to see that the fight didn't actually happen? I was perfectly happy believing that, okay, yeah, he fought a corpse. That's great. That's fantastic. So I don't know if that was put in just so like people wouldn't be like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. That's too magical. What was with that?
That would have made the movie even more Dark Souls like.
Yeah.
By the way, I just want to like say out loud, like as a disclaimer, I say Dark Souls. I've never played Dark Souls.
Well, me either.
I played the beginning of Demon Souls and I died like 5 times, and I haven't touched it since.
Exact same experience, Bloodborne.
Yeah. I started Bloodborne and then I said I'm not gonna play this, and I replayed Persona 5 again because that's my shit.
Oh yeah, that's what I did too.
So, yeah, boy. So yeah, there is a movie here that works, but there is a lot of things that you could tell are padded, and I do like Eggers. I want to see him, do more, but I think his next movie is bound to be like smaller scale.
Yeah,
and definitely with Dafoe in it doing weird shit. So I'm into that. This felt like a good outing though. I'm not gonna criticize that, and I am glad that he's still out there making movies. The only thing that does worry me is like if this is gonna set like a precedent. Like for example, let's compare him to another guy in his little A24 club, Ari Aster. So Ari Aster also already did 2 movies, creepy as shit, weird as shit, pretty iconic, and then he's doing like that next movie, and I think he is doing it with A24, The Disappointment Boulevard. But what if it? Now I'm afraid. Now I'm afraid that that it might be. It's not underwhelming, but now I'm like a little afraid. They're totally different directors, but now I'm afraid of like what's gonna come when that third movie comes.
Well, and the issue here as well is not only that Eggers went on to work with Universal, one of the biggest studios, but also that A24 itself is becoming a bigger presence. They do producing now a bit more than distribution. And they keep getting more and more and more fame and money. I have not yet seen Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Me neither.
But it does look like it has a bigger production value than past A24 works. And with great power comes great responsibility. So now that they are a bigger studio that's getting more attention, there's also a concern that they are going to want to keep that, like maybe they're gonna be playing things safer from now on. Not sure what the future holds. I hope that's not the case. I hope we keep getting really bold works from them, but we'll have to see how Disappointment Boulevard comes out. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like I can talk on this because both you and we are members of A24 All Access. So, I basically own A24, and I can say that, they are doing well.
Definitely.
Because I represent them. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Cannot wait to flash my A24 membership card and, just, get kicked out of the club. Yeah, so the Northman, again, I don't want to say I left underwhelmed, but I definitely enjoy it. I don't know if I'll see it again, but it was a pretty entertaining watch. It's something that I am very, very glad I watched, but that I didn't. Excuse me. But that I didn't end up relating to or adoring a lot. But I am glad that it's a thing that existed and that made some money and more presence for Eggers. I ended up giving the movie a 2.5 out of 5 stars in Letterboxd. So that's how I ended.
Perfectly reasonable. It was a very whelming movie.
Yeah, absolutely. No one is questioning that it was badly made. It's just maybe not for me.
I meant whelming, as in neither overwhelming nor underwhelming.
Oh, that's a good word. That's a 45-point word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how did you feel about the themes in the movie? Did anything particularly speak to you?
Not particularly. Maybe because I've never wished revenge on an uncle. At least not yet. But there were, like I said, I think I was there more for the visuals and for the weirder parts. I did not expect to see some pussy hair in the movie.
Yeah.
Did not expect
Yeah.
that. Not that I didn't like it. It's just a thing that I did not see it coming. And I was like, all right, well, I guess that's the kind of movie that we're at right now. I did not expect to see incest in this movie either.
Hmm.
Completely forgot that Bjork was in it, and yeah, so that's I think that the three pillars of weirdness that I was not expecting, but I can appreciate. Um, I think the parts that I liked the most were the trippier moments, like every scene where he is being talked to, like in his mind, and we see him riding the ending. I adored. I adored when he's riding that horse at the end. I love it. It's a great visual. The trip is scene with the foe. You mentioned the being a little bit bothered by the CGI when he's seeing like all the like his dynasty, like his family.
Yeah.
And I do agree, but while you can tell that it's CGI, it's a good design. Like I think it's a good looking design. I don't know how you could have achieved that in like practical effects. I I'm not sure. I am absolutely sure that Eggers would have found a way to do it,
Yeah.
but bigger budget. He probably wants to save time. Like I don't blame him. Themes not really captured or enamored by the themes in this. Um, I loved your take on how religion was used, but since I'm not a religious person, I don't think I became too attached to that. But I do think it's in that take is the most interesting thing that can be said about this movie. I think.
So here's the thing, though, and I thought it was funny that you mentioned pretty much twice when you brought up that some people went to see this movie and they were like, "Oh, I want to get ripped. I want to like be like him." Essentially,
Yeah.
that's the distillate, right? And then you said, "I've never wanted revenge," and I think that's the primary thing about this movie. It's a very masculine movie. And I think that's one thing that marks it as part of that Da trilogy.
The
Because when we got the witch, the witch touches a lot on toxic masculinity on part of the father, right? And how his pride destroys his family essentially, but also it's the most feminine movie he's made so far because our viewpoint character is Thomasin, and it's ultimately a story about her growth and her struggles with a very Puritan family and a very antagonistic mother and having to take care of children, right, that are not hers. And all the expectations that leering from her own brother, like it's a very feminine experience, and I think that's why it speaks to people the most. Because I honestly think The Witch is his most beloved movie,
Mhm.
and particularly when you mentioned your sister didn't like The Lighthouse. Not a lot of women I know like The Lighthouse, and I think that it's because it's a very intensely masculine story, and it's a very homoerotic story. Definitely, there are a lot of
She did.
huh.
She did mention something that she did mention that she got a conclusion out of the lighthouse that she did like. She said that the lighthouse is like a metaphor of what happens when only men are in charge.
Yeah, correct.
So if you see that, the lighthouse, both the lighthouse and the witch are like strangely feminist movies.
Yes, but I feel like The Witch is a bit more accessible because we get those female viewpoint characters, right? In both Thomasin and her mom, because her mom is also heavily affected by the events of the film, even if she's a little antagonistic towards the protagonist at some points. But in The Lighthouse, we don't get that. And in The Lighthouse, all we see are two toxic men being toxic to each other, right? Um,
Mhm.
and and that's why it's a little less accessible to a female audience. Because I feel like as more masculine folk, right, we can relate a little bit more with some of the impulses in the movie. It invites us to reflect on ourselves, and the actions we take and the presence we exert on the world. And like I mentioned, there's also some slight queer elements in there, so maybe that's
Absolutely.
makes it a little bit of a more rounded experience. This movie does not really have that very much at all. It is a very intensely masculine experience, even more so from everything from the focus to the way that the female characters are treated, right? I mean, the mom has a lot of agency in her choices, but ultimately she gets swept away, right? And I guess that's part of the theme too, because she talks about how she was pretty much forced into her position by the father in the beginning, and then eventually her role just became being whoever's queen, right? Whether it was the uncle or the son.
Yeah.
She was essentially relegated herself to the position of trophy. And then Anya, in the exact same position, she becomes enslaved. She rebels against her captors, but she's still captured through the entire movie. And she eventually forms a bond with Amleth. Even though her character was bisexual, we do see her flirting with women, and having sex with them in the movie. So even though she has a little bit more agency, she's still relegated to the destiny of the men, right? And she becomes the mother of Amlet's children. And ultimately, the main story is this guy doing whatever he can to secure his lineage and to avenge his dad. And there's some tenderness in there. The love between his father and him was very pure and very sweet. But because it's an action film and because it's a revenge story, a lot of that gets buried under this intensely masculine and intensely like Nordic aesthetic of a Viking warrior, right? He is described as a berserker at many points throughout the movie. So he is the embodiment of that archetype. He doesn't really do a lot to break out from it. There's a lot of toxic masculinity that's aligned with it, right? Because ultimately he decides to abandon his family in his quest for vengeance, right? There's that conflict that he has at one point where he's like, well, I could escape with them. Maybe if I don't kill my uncle, he's eventually going to come back to kill my kids. So that's why he ends up going to do that, right? But I mean, he could have chosen to live a life of peace, right? Somewhere else. That's what the uncle chose. He became a farmer, right? Far away from where they used to be. He doesn't take that decision. He wants to go and fight and kill and ultimately die, which is, I think, extremely toxic. It's a behavior that a lot of men have, right? Like, I don't have any other choice. I have to choose violence, and
Yeah.
that's what happens in the movie. And that's why I think it speaks to a lot of guys who want to go and get ripped.
Yeah. Is this I'm making a comparison again. I compared it to Dark Souls without playing Dark Souls. I'm gonna compare it to another piece of media without actually consuming that piece of media. But is this like what? And I got it because, and I was gonna make this comparison before you brought it up. But is this what Berserk is? Like, is this the manga? Like, is this the same effect?
Not
So.
really. Berserk is, I would say, more akin to The Lighthouse. It has a lot of homoerotic themes in it. It has a lot of religious themes in it. Berserk is about tenderness, first and foremost. Guts is a very aggressive and violent character, but the point of the story is how he's tempered and ultimately saved by the love of his companions, which is not what happens in this movie.
Yeah, not at all. All right. Well, I wanted to throw that out there. All right. So, again, like, I feel like I'm concluding this on not a lot, but this is, while it is a big movie, and I can appreciate Eggers having a lot of access to that big budget. I do miss the weirdness and the freedom that I think he had with A24. Not a criticism of the movie, of course. This is like when a band that you really like releases an album that you don't love. Like, you still like it, but you're probably gonna re-listen to their first two albums a lot more. Not that I'm not excited for the next album, and absolutely pumped for whatever he decides to do next. I don't have a lot to conclude. I think I've said my piece. I enjoyed the movie. I do recommend people watch it so that they have their own opinion on it. But I am a little bit lukewarm by it. Like I like it. I didn't love it.
You know, it's definitely a movie I would recommend to anyone, and that's a testament to its wide appeal, right? Like what we talked about, its studio aim at being accessible. Because I didn't love it, I didn't hate it. I think pretty much everyone could watch it, and it's something I'm comfortable telling, like, hey, you know what? You should watch it, form your own opinion. There are some movies I like where I straight up like, no, I know you wouldn't like this, or well, this isn't really your thing, you know. But this could be anyone's thing, really. It's not gonna offend anyone too heavily, I would say.
Do you think that if you recommend this one and they liked it, would you go, hey, since you liked it, check out the Lighthouse, check out the Witch? Like, would you go that far or not?
Well, it depends on the person. Because, for example, I think my dad would really like this movie. My dad would hate the Lighthouse, and he would hate The Witch because he hates horror movies. So yeah, I mean, but if I suggested it to a friend who I knew was also interested in more esoteric shit and they did like it, I would recommend the other movies.
All right. All right. Well, I think it's a nice way to end it. Anything else you wanna touch in this?
No.
No. Okay. All right. Well, I think it's a good conclusion there. It gave me what I wanted, which is naked Defoe.
Yeah.
And a lot of weirdness, but it is on a package that I don't know if this will be like the movie that we end up talking a lot about. Like we are still talking about The Witch, and I think we're gonna keep talking about the.
I feel like in the last 48 minutes, I've said everything I've ever wanted to say about this movie.
Yeah, probably not gonna think about this for like a few days from now on. All right. Well, I guess that concludes everything. I don't think we have anything else to say. Thank you so much for coming to the show. You're always welcome, and thank you everyone for listening. This was our review of The Lighthouse. We will be we'll hopefully keep.
Wait, it was the Northman, not the Lighthouse.
Did I say The Lighthouse? That's all I'm thinking about.
This was also a review of The Lighthouse a little bit.
This was also a review of The Lighthouse. Fun fact: it was Jimmy's birthday on Friday, and as a birthday gift, I got him a shirt with an image of Defoe cursing in the lighthouse. And I'm not saying that I don't want to toot my own horn, but I am pretty proud of that birthday gift. I think I nailed it that day.
Fantastic present, made my year.
Excellent, wonderful, and it's a V-neck, so I know that. So I know that you would like it.
I feel comfy in it.
Excellent. How's the quality? Because I've never bought a shirt from Redbubble.
It's great. It's really soft. I'm a little bit concerned about its survivability, so I'm gonna hand wash this one. But it's really comfy.
All right. How's the printing? Like, does it feel like low quality?
Oh no, I don't think that'll fade ever, baby.
Oh, great, wonderful. So now I do feel comfortable ordering like a shirt for myself.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I used this as a scapegoat. Sorry. All right. So that is our review of The Northman. Thank you so much for joining us. My name was Chema.
This was Jimmy.
And this was The Rollback.